What's up, everybody? This is the Growing Up Italian podcast. And today I have a special guest.
Yes.
Christie Peruso.
Hi, everybody.
Straight from Italy.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We just imported her.
No, that's definitely not the case.
It feels like it, though.
Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Italian-American, and I was born and raised here. Mm-hmm. My family is originally from Sicily, and my mom's mom was from Sarno, so close to Naples, Napoli, okay? Mm-hmm. That's basically my head in these past few days, back and forth between English and...
You forget which one to say?
I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. And so, yeah, but my parents were both born here in the Bronx, and then I was born in New Haven, which is another really big Italian-American community.
I actually never been there, but a lot of our followers are from there.
Okay,
so
yeah.
People always say you should come to New Haven. I also heard about like a lot of pizza there.
Yes,
like,
Sally's Pizza. There's Pepe's Pizza. I think Abade's as well. There's so many.
So what's the best pizza in New Haven?
We always normally go to Pepe's. Yeah.
So you were born in Connecticut. And
that's right.
You just moved to Sicily Milan.
Yeah.
What, 4 years ago?
So actually, it's been much longer. So I studied, because I'm an actress, and I studied...
actress and model, right?
Yeah, when I was younger. As I'm getting older, I like to focus more on the acting. But my story, long story short, is that I was born and raised in New Haven, and I studied acting mainly in New York, singing, dancing, acting, and I started in musicals. And at the time, I was dating somebody who was Italian. When I was 19, I decided to move back to where the family is originally from in Italy. And he was from Milan, so I stayed in Milan. And as soon as I got to Milan, I didn't speak Italian almost at all.
Oh, really?
So yeah, it was really hard for
Not
me
even
to
dialect, just
no, I mean, the very basics, like come stai? No,
Formaggio.
not even. I think I knew the 3 M's, like marron.
All the curses?
Exactly.
Maronna, macaroon.
Manja, managgiate. Yeah. I won't go with some of the other things that might come to everyone's head.
Well, I'm sure our followers know exactly what you're trying to say.
They know everything I'm talking about. So yeah, I knew very basic
even me personally, I have a hard time in Milan when I speak Italian because my dialect is just like, ma che dici?
Exactly, because where's your family originally from?
Salerno.
So it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's like Chinese to them.
Yeah.
So I have a really hard time, but in general, even the kids in Salerno, they don't even speak my dialect. It's like an old dialect.
Yeah, that your family has continued to use while they've been here. Whereas I didn't really grow up speaking Italian. So then when I went to Italy, I struggled for the first couple of years. It was really... mainly the first year was really hard, and then I really just picked it up. There's no other. I was like a sponge, and I was young, so it was a bit easy.
Did you take classes to speak Italian?
I only took one for 1 month. So I mean, like in the
that's good.
I really got it just from speaking with people and asking people and learning. And when you live in a country, you're kind of forced to learn how to speak the language. So, being there really helped me. And that's how I picked up the language. But getting back to talking about my career, when I moved to Italy, it was really hard for me to find acting work. I mean, obviously, I could barely even speak Italian.
I thought there would be more in New York, right? Italy?
Yeah, I mean, Italian cinema is really beautiful, and there's a lot of great work. It's mainly in Rome, and they do a lot of television in Milan. So what ended up happening was I started doing TV commercials because I didn't have to talk. They were like, can you just take a sip of this and smile? And I didn't have to say anything. So I really started working in television through TV commercials.
Gotcha.
And that opened up doors. I got an agent. And then the first job that I landed was actually for Comedy Central, Italy. Yes,
really?
Comedy Central, Italy. But
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, it is. And I was mainly dancing, though. I wasn't acting as much. And then the first speaking role that I got was with DJ TV. And now years later, I'm working again with Radio DJ, which is one of the main radios in Italy.
Exactly.
So I'm really happy. Yeah. So I mean, that was long story short. What happened was I had worked originally for 5 years or so in Italian television. And then I needed a break, and I had some other opportunities to work internationally. So I said, okay, I'm just going to take maybe like 3 months and do some other modeling contracts elsewhere. I had opportunities, you know, in Asia and Africa, and going.
Oh, so you went to Asia and Africa too?
Yeah, I went all around. I mean,
Wow.
I was modeling in Dubai, and just I was really all through the world.
You've been
You know,
everywhere.
Europe and America. And so, you know, going to Italy was such like an enriching experience, and I wanted to see, you know, where else I could go with modeling, like where else in the world would it take me? So I had intended to go away only for 3 months, and I stayed away for like 6 years.
That escalated quickly.
So eventually, you know, it got to be a bit, you know, I was like, okay, I'm ready to go back to Italy now. I really missed it. It was like really eating away at me. And I was like, I just feel like that's really truly my home deep down.
At the end of the day, that's home.
Yeah,
That's where
I
we
mean,
come
for
from.
me, even though I grew up here, I always had this feeling that like my family is originally from somewhere else. Like I'm from somewhere else. And that's something that I would really like to talk about more so in the Italian American community. And I just find that, you know, within our community, people really identify in a lot of different ways. So like, say, for example, some people, like my cousins, say, for example, they'll identify as New Yorkers. When you ask them, like, where are you from? They're New Yorkers. Obviously, they're proud to be Italian American,
exactly.
but they never needed to go back to Italy, or
Yeah.
they never sought it. Like we went as a family trip one time, maybe that was it. They
that's
don't even
it,
really
yeah.
care to, you know, for them being Italian American is enough. Being from New York is enough, and that's really their identity. Whereas for me, from the time that I was really young, I remember being fascinated about like family trees and like figuring out and like tracing
who's your-
lineage. And like I had a photo of like my great grandparents in Sicily, and it was like this black and white photo, like this portrait of all them standing there. And I
Their
still
wedding picture, or just
no, I don't even know why they had a portrait, but I think that they were about to take off to America or something like
I know
that.
what you're
And
talking
so,
about. Okay.
yeah.
So it's like one of those big family pictures of like all the kids.
And then
yeah.
everyone's just standing there. No one's even smiling. It's one of
smiling.
those. It's one of the, everybody
Yeah.
has.
My nonna has a picture like that. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's where my family's from. And I would hear stories, you know, my
But
grandfather.
were your parents born here or there?
My parents were born here in the Bronx. Both of them were born in the
so
Bronx.
you're second generation. Here.
Yeah. So exactly. That's why I didn't really speak
Yeah, that's why
Italian.
you didn't speak it. Yeah, it makes sense.
Right, growing up. And where was I going with this? Now I just lost my train of thought, but it's okay. I was thinking about, my grandfather. You know, he had always told us stories about, you know, Sicily, and some people in the family would go back, it's this one's 95th birthday. We have to go back to Sicily. So, and especially because my grandfather had a really interesting story. So he was actually born already in the United States, and
He went back.
then he went back to Sicily.
I know some people. That,
Yeah, so it was the Great Depression. So when it was the Great Depression, they were like, what are we even doing here? Let's go back. So they went back because they still had farms there and things like that. So at least they could eat, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's important.
Yeah, so they went back to Sicily, and he was there for a little while. So he went to like elementary school, and then he moved back to America. Came back to New York, and then it was like World War II, and then he didn't want to have to fight, I think, against like Italians. It was like one of
World
those.
War II, yeah.
They were back and
That's
forth,
where
back and
a lot
forth.
of people talk about like that specific time in America. Like Italians weren't proud to be Italian at all because here we are battling Italians in a world war. So that's where a lot of the culture, like, you know what I'm saying? You see that little culture gap.
Well, I think
from
that
the
was
time of the wars.
also the assimilation that was just being pushed on, you know, immigrants, especially around like, I want to say maybe from the 1950s, but maybe this is just my understanding and I might be incorrect. But, you know, everyone was being basically forced to assimilate into American culture.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I could
just to be proud to be American. Like, this is where you are. You know what I'm saying?
I understand that, and there's a place for that, but I think that it's really important that we don't lose our roots and our heritage because that really informs our values, and our values are how we create like who we are as a people.
Absolutely.
And so I think also that it was really important for me to go back to Italy and spend time with my family in Sicily, and you know, live and work in Milan, and just understand what it was like to be Italian, because you know, our blood is Italian.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, as much as we were raised here, that was more so my identity, was the fact, because again, you and I were talking about this before, when it comes to like, especially in like the tri-state area, I'm not sure, other Italian Americans in other places, or other Italians in other places of the world, I don't know if it's the same, but everybody always says like, what's your ethnicity? Where are you from?
Where you from? What's your nationality?
Yeah, exactly. So like you and I were always like, oh yeah, we're Italian. And then I went back to Italy, and it was like, everybody was like, you're American, you're not Italian. I'm like, but I am Italian. Just because I don't speak the language doesn't mean that I don't have Italian blood.
They call you Americana, right?
Sí, esatto. So I think that really, that was really hard for me, was because my whole identity was based on the fact that I was Italian. Growing up in America, it was like, that's who you were. You're from an Italian community. But then I went back, and then I was American. So, that really forced me to understand truly what it meant to me to be Italian American. I will never be 100%, like
each way, either way.
Yeah, and that's okay.
There's pros and cons to each, though.
Right, exactly.
So, I don't know. Right now, you're still in Milan. So, Milan, you don't see it as much, but like where I'm from, like everything shuts down at 1. So, if you don't have food in the house, you're in trouble. Whereas like,
those things
America, it's like, you want something,
right,
someone will go pick it up for you and bring it to you for a fee. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, those things were also really hard for me to get used to when I first.
But Milan's not like that, or it is?
Milan is to a certain extent. A lot of places close at a certain time. They close for lunch. And I think ultimately, like when I look at it as a big picture, America's just based around convenience. See, like we've got so many.
Well, we're lazy.
Well, no, I mean. Yeah, maybe.
That too.
But there's so many convenience stores, and I just think, there's places that are open 24/7, and whereas in Italy, that was hard for me to get used to as well. There were a lot of things that were tricky for me to get used to when I moved back, and so, the language being one of them, having to learn and pick that up from nothing. And then also there were cultural things. I think that as Italian Americans, we have the same values as Italians, because those values were passed down through our like grandparents that came over. But those cultural things, like say, for example, that if you're ready to eat lunch, if you're late, you can't go eat lunch at 3:30 because the restaurant's already closed, because then they're prepping for dinner. And you're used to, in New York, things being open like from noon on, and they're open till like, God only knows what time. So
you could eat a meal at any time.
And, stores will close for lunch, and then restaurants will close after lunch. So it was like a juggling game.
Yeah, it's very weird like that.
Yeah. So those kind of cultural things were trickier to get used to. And especially because also Italians, like a really big difference that I've noted is that Italians really appreciate like artisans. And
you're just talking about like fine dining, like.
Well, no, more so what I'm referring to is, say, for example, if they want to get fruit, they'll go to the fruttivendolo. They'll go to the little guy with the little stand, and he's going to have his stuff. And then if they want to get meat, they go to the butcher.
Yeah.
And then if they want to get wine, they'll go to the enoteca.
Yeah, like the supermarket's more like, grabbing a little bit of everything. But whereas here, it's like you grab everything there.
At the supermarket. You just one-stop shop. You just go to the supermarket. It's done. Whereas Italians, they don't mind if they have to go a little bit more out of their way because they want the quality products.
But that's all they have to do the whole day. Their day just revolves around, napata cotolette, 3 tomatoes, and then going home, right?
It depends. I would say if you're from an old school Italian family where maybe, the mom's been home for a while, she never went back to work after she had her kids, then that is going to be a big part. But I think our generation, a lot of the women are working and.
Yeah, definitely.
But, it's very typical that women will retire and be the grandmother and look out. So that'll definitely be more so a part of their, and also grandpas too, definitely. Yeah.
Now they're hanging out on the piazza playing briscola.
Watching somebody.
They're busy. They're
watching construction, and you see them all standing
judging
around.
Everybody else.
Telling everybody else how to live their lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
From the bar, from a piazzetta. That's what I lived. That's what I grew up with. It's completely different though. I mean, Italy's definitely 100% more laid back.
I would say
Here's
in the South. In the South, yes.
Yeah.
I think anywhere the closer you are to the equator and the hotter it is, the slower you can move.
Yep.
You can't be boom, 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 boom all over the place. You'll just die of heat stroke.
Yeah.
So people naturally
true.
are like, we need to take longer breaks. They'll have longer pauses at lunchtime. They'll go home. They'll take a nap at lunch.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for Italians to have, like, especially in the South, especially in the summer, lunches can be a good 2.5 hours, maybe potentially longer.
Yeah.
In the North, not as
4
much.
hours.
Well, Milan
With
is
with the nap, yeah, it's like 4 hours.
yikes. I mean, like that can be the case, but I would say in Milan that's definitely not the case. It's a colder environment. It's more what's the right word?
It's a big city too.
Yeah, it's more metropolitan, ultimately, what I'm getting at. And they've got deadlines that they've got to meet. They're working with international, businesses. So it's a bit different, Milan to.
You see,
to the
Milan,
south.
I didn't get like that slow vibe at all.
No, it's
Milan
definitely
was very like
fast paced. Yeah.
Even shouts to my dad's cousin there. He goes 150 miles an hour. Like he's always moving. He owns a couple of small businesses and he works for himself. So he hustles hard.
I feel like in a way, like, how they say sometimes people joke like, oh, New York's not really part of America. It's like its own kind of like entity.
Milan's
it's
the
like
same
can't
way.
really. I think so. I think in a lot of ways, yeah. I would say it's the one thing that you can compare in the two cities is it's more so fast paced. But I like the fact that they want to get a lot done. There's ambitious people in Milan. I really
a lot of tourists too, like tourists that come every day to spend money, but also people that move there for a better life.
correct.
So immigrants.
Yeah, there's immigrants from overseas and immigrants from the south of Italy, that there's just a lot more work opportunities in
Yeah.
Milan. So, but it was really interesting. I thought that maybe because we, our families are all from the south. So a lot of times when people go back, they'll go back to the Amalfi Coast. This is also really fascinating to me. It's like when I think about all my cousins, all the people that I grew up with in my Italian-American community, we're all from like Sicily, right? Or like from Calabria or from, the Amalfi Coast, Napoli, etc. So it's like but then people go back and they'll just go to Rome and Florence and Venice and then they go home. And it's like, that's not even, you cannot compare. Like, sure, that's still Italy. That's great. But until 150 years ago, like when our family like moved, like they were their own monarchies. Like they were their own sovereign government.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Italy only got united
150 years ago.
Exactly. So America's been united longer than them in that sense. Right?
Yeah. So it's funny to me when people go back. I mean, obviously those are great places to go to, but when you really want to get back connected to your roots, you should speak to your grandparents and speak to like our generation, say for example, reach out, speak to the elders and understand where your family's from and go back there. You're going to find like
absolutely.
You can connect
That's what this page is really about. Like that's what we like encourage everybody to do. Like get involved in your local society. Like, for us, where our family's from, there's a society down the block. So we try to be involved as much as possible. But back to Milan.
Okay.
Isn't it very like different with the food too? Like Milan compared to the South? I mean,
the cuisine is very
like
different.
when I went to Milan, it was all Milanese, like, Polo Milanese.
So I think it comes back to what the terrain is and what the weather's like. They could, they have a lot of rice and corn-based, like polenta, say, for example.
Yeah.
So it's like different regions have their own specialties because the terrain is so different from the north to the south. Different, temperature and, the certain crops can only grow a certain time of year in different places. So the food that you and I grew up with from the south, and we fry like everything. We like stuff everything, and it's like we mix and even when I go back down there and I tell them like, guys, I don't eat meat. They're like, okay, don't worry. Like,
other than vegetarian?
like, yeah, for the most part, I eat a plant-based diet. I have for like the last 15 years. Obviously, when I go back to Italy, I'm very much more like flexible and adaptable just because I go see my family and they're like, this massive lasagna comes out. I'm like, all right, whatever's in there, I'm eating it.
Exactly.
Like I throw my hands
Will
up
you
at
eat cheese?
every once in a while, yeah. Again, like I prefer plant-based stuff. So like when I go back, I'll tell them I'm vegetarian, and they're like, "Don't worry, I'll make polpetta with eggplant." So then they'll make like meatballs, but made out of eggplant, and instead of like
sounds
stuffing,
good.
yeah, it's really good. Or instead of like stuffing, you know how they stuff the red peppers and stuff like that? They won't put the meat in it, but they'll put like
The
other
rice
things in it.
or
Or,
something.
yeah, 1,000 different things. I mean, they come up with the most, amazing things. The dishes are amazing. But yeah, as far as cuisine goes, what you and I grew up with, what I think a lot of Italian Americans grew up with, things like capers and olives and the sun-dried tomatoes and the roasted red peppers and all that stuff, the eggplant, all that stuff, artichokes. I mean, that's more so from Rome and the South. Like
exactly.
from Rome down. That's,
Yeah.
us. Whereas from the North, it's really, really different.
Yeah, corn, rice.
Yeah.
Those like, I feel like that's where chicken cutlets were invented.
Yeah.
It has to be.
Yeah. I think,
So-
I don't know, real. I mean, they do cotoletta.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's not made with chicken. It's made with other meat. But again, I'm vegetarian,
Yeah, so
so,
you're not-
yeah.
It's not something you focus on.
No,
so.
not as much.
So, in Milan,
Mm.
do you obviously AC Milan and Inter? Do you have a preference?
So one of my first jobs back when I moved to Milan many years ago was I was working for Sky Sport. And they would throw me in the middle of a piazza with a microphone, and I'd have to go around and ask everybody, what do you think about this match? I literally, the only thing I know about soccer is that there's 2 goals, a ball, some guys in uniforms with cleats, and I know that there's grass, like that, and there's something called offsides, but sometimes I even get that wrong. So I really don't know anything about soccer, and a soccer player can pass right in front of me. I wouldn't even know it was them. I really know nothing about.
It's out of your field. Like,
Yeah,
you don't
no,
care about
I'm
it.
more of that creative artist.
Yeah,
I was
I got
always
you.
in theater and everything, so I'm more into art than,
Because the San
sports.
Siro in Milan's sick too.
Oh yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I've been there. They do lots of
A lot of
things.
concerts and
Yeah,
stuff.
so I mean, I've been there a few times. Yeah.
My cousin said he saw Vasco Rossi there. And he's like,
Really?
it was
That
the
must
best
have been
concert he's ever been in.
crazy. Yeah, that's funny.
Like, I just went to San Siro last year to see Inter versus AC Milan, the derby,
Oh wow.
and it was sick because I'm an Inter fan.
Okay.
But do you think there's more Inter fans or AC Milan fans? in
I
Milan?
don't know. I mean, we even
can't-
have a Roma hat here, so don't get in trouble now, hey.
That's
Don't
all
get
right.
in trouble, hey.
We love all the Italian teams at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just think like I'm such I don't want to say that I'm very maternal, but I'm such like one of I hate, these kind of gender stereotypes, but I'm such a woman that like I'm always like, oh, that one's losing. I feel so bad for that one that's losing. Like I'm not good with competition with like
Yeah.
sports teams. We were at Yankee Stadium because are you a Mets fan?
Yeah, I'm a Mets fan.
Okay,
too.
I'm a Yankees fan. Well, I mean, both my parents are
Well,
born in the Bronx.
You'll feel bad if the other team loses, though.
Oh my God, I feel
You wouldn't make a
terrible.
good Yankee
I want to
fan
go
then.
give the hugs to everybody. It's like the only one's like Boston Red Sox, all right. But then at the end of the day, people take off their uniforms and they're still human beings. And it's like you really feel for people. I'm really not good with competition. So
Yeah.
I've never been into sports. Like I turn the other way if I see like stuff is crazy.
Yeah, but everything's a competition, not just sports.
I know.
In your field, I'm sure it's a lot of competition.
The way that I see it is that I really like to stay in my lane. I know what I'm doing. I know what my goals are, my ambitions are, and I think that I'm the only one that can do it my way, just like what you're doing. You're the only one that can do it your way. We might be kind of pushed into similar categories. Like if they're looking for a brunette, I'll be in a room with 1,000 other brunettes and we all look like identical. But ultimately at the end of the day, it comes down to what can you offer? As long as you're being your best self and you're putting your best foot forward, no one's going to do anything like you. Like
No, I agree.
And that's how I've maintained and that's how I've worked internationally and, both in Italian and English for the last decade is because I don't let competition get to me and I don't let failure get to me and I don't let rejection get to me. I just think, okay, maybe they wanted a girl with blue eyes and my eyes are brown.
Yeah.
And I don't take it personally. I could just be the best brown-eyed person that I can be,
Yeah.
but maybe
the best version of you.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So
No,
the older
definitely.
that I get, because I turned 30 this
I
year.
always sort of like that.
Yeah.
We said that before. I never
Yeah.
ask a woman her age. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
but
was
it's
thought
like,
that was rude.
I tell everybody I'm not shy. I'm proud, like I turned 30 this year. Is a really big birthday. And I think as I've gotten older, I really appreciate, and again, like going back to Italian American, like that has become a really big part of my identity. It's become a really big part of my brand and who I am. It really informs, me as an actor, like branding myself. We all brand ourselves in some way, shape, or form, And
so what are some of your goals for the next 5 years?
I have them here. I have them in my head. But I would say definitely I studied not only acting, but also screenwriting. And I reached out to a writer that I had worked with in Italian television a few years back. And I pitched him my story that I had created. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's fun. And it really... I wonder, like in a few years when we watch this back, if we listen back to this, I wonder if I'll have done this project already. I'm really looking.
That's why I'm asking you. It's going to be documented now. To be like, remember 5 years ago?
This is actually the first time I really haven't spoken about it openly, but we've got a 120-page script that I want to bring down to about 100 pages. It's a family comedy, and it really plays a lot into my own personal experiences of being, American, going back to find my family in Italy. So, but
you got Pitch It to Sky, a nice Italian show.
We'll definitely see. We've got some things on the table, but it's, step by step, slowly, just getting the right people involved. So,
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
That would be dope.
Yeah.
You watch Gomorrah, the Italian show?
I actually, it's funny, I've been in contact with one of the actors on the show on Instagram, but I don't know, I've seen clips of it, but I'm not following it.
Do you know which actor?
Yeah, Gennaro, but I don't know.
Oh, the main one.
I don't know.
With the crazy haircut?
I don't know.
Jenny. His name's Jenny on the show.
I don't know, guys. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying the wrong name.
She got the straight plug.
I got to open up my Instagram and see.
She's going to show us the DMs. Hold on.
No, it's not even like that. I think it's just, you want to support other actors and you see like, oh, where families are from more or less the same, like good luck. I always reach out to other Italian Americans and other Italians that are in my industry. Like, I'm so happy for you. No, it's actually not him.
All right, I was talking about Gennaro Savastano.
No.
His name's Gennaro on the show.
No.
So you're talking about Gennaro.
There's a Gennaro in real life.
So we gotta find out who that is.
It may not even be his name, but anyway.
Really, like Italian, like American Italians don't really watch a lot of Italian TV.
Right.
I feel it's minimal.
Maybe. I mean, is it dubbed? Well,
because
no, it's not dubbed.
Rye, like I know for personal experience, is $16 to have.
What, monthly?
Yeah.
In America.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive, like as an add-on.
As an add-on, I would say, yeah.
But now there's like, Fire Sticks and all these different ways to get the shows.
I guess so. But I mean, firstly, there's a bit of like cultural difference between Italian Americans and Italians. So there's already that. And then the language barrier, if it, even with, subtitles. I would say that Americans just in general don't watch things that aren't in English, and they don't watch things that are subtitled. Whereas in Europe, you've got projects coming from all over the place. And especially, Italy is really, really big on dubbing. Like, they dub just about everything. Yeah. So it's crazy. I
remember laughing about it growing up, like, even Dragon Ball Z or like the cartoons.
But you see their mouth move and like it doesn't match at all. And I'm like, how could you be okay with this? Like, I'm not used to seeing like an actor's mouth move and then like, he's speaking in English and then they throw an Italian guy over it,
It's funny.
But
I like I said, like growing up when we was like during lunchtime, during those naps, you would try to watch TV and be like, what is this? But now things are different. Like they have everything. Even TVs have YouTube now, so like everything's universal.
Everything is a lot. I mean, I moved to Milan about 10 years ago, more or less. And oh my gosh, like the world has changed drastically. Milan specifically has changed since the expo came about 4 years ago. I saw like they really...
I might sound stupid, but what is that?
So the World Expo, like say, for example, that was, the Eiffel Tower in Paris. Mm-hmm. Like that's when they built the Eiffel Tower as the World Expo. So every year, like every few years, maybe even 4 years, I don't remember. I think the next one's going to be in Dubai, if I'm not mistaken. So it's just like a massive event that they call the World Expo, and it goes from city to city, and it gives the city like people bid for it. like the Olympics, say, for
okay.
example. So as far as that goes, I'm not talking about like gentrification and like kicking people out of there.
Yeah.
I mean, because there has
Just like
been
sort of like polishing every day.
yeah, basically, like, the sidewalks all of a
Yeah.
sudden are redone, or the roads, or neighborhoods that had, lots of public space, like parks. They cleaned a lot of things up. So it was really nice. It did bring in a lot of international business. And so Milan really has changed. But also, I think social media, has.
Like all of a sudden, like littering and all that stuff, like everybody's much more aware of like
maybe,
the
yeah.
negative things of like, using straws, like all
Maybe.
this stuff.
Maybe you're right. Maybe. It could be. It could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But thank you for coming.
Thank you
We've been
so
talking
much.
about doing this for a long time.
I
so
know.
I'm glad we made it happen.
I know.
We just took a little break too. So this is actually the first podcast we filmed in like a month and a half.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you
was
so
an
much
honor.
for having me.
Thank you so much.
We have to do it
Everybody,
again.
make sure you follow Christy on Instagram.
We could talk for hours. It's so bad. Like if he didn't cut me off, we would have been going for so much
I know.
longer too.
That's what it is. We're at time. We can't stop talking.
Yeah. Oh, guys, please follow me on Instagram. So it's at Christie Peruso. I'll spell that
I'll
out.
make sure I put it in the bio too.
Yeah, it's CHRISTIE and my last name Peruso, Peruso. And yeah, let's keep the conversation
Thank you guys
going.
for tuning in.
Thank you.